Okay, good day, class. So we will continue our discussion on the theories of learning that fall under cognitivism. So again, we're done with behaviorism, and if we can still remember, behaviorism and neo-behaviorism are two related but distinct theoretical frameworks, while behaviorism emphasizes the study of observable behavior. Yung neo-behaviorism, it acknowledges the role of cognitive processes in learning and seeks to formalize the laws of behavior. So today, we will focus on the study of mental processes, including how people perceive, think, remember, learn, solve problems, and even make decisions. Okay? So let's talk about the constructivist theory of Jerome Bruner. Okay, so Jerome Bruner's constructivist theory is a general framework for instruction based on the study of cognition. And it emphasizes that learning is an active process in which learners construct new knowledge by selecting and transforming information, constructing hypotheses, and making decisions based on their cognitive structure. And this cognitive structure class, which includes schemas and mental models, it provides meaning and organizations to experiences and allows individuals to go beyond the information given. So if we can still remember, no class, a schema, according to Chan Piaget, it is a cognitive concept that helps us organize and interpret information. It is also a mental model that describes pattern of thinking and behavior that we use to interpret a specific subject. So according to Jerome Bruner, there are modes of representation as to how information or knowledge is stored and encoded in our memory. So there are three modes of representations, and these are the first one is the enactive, the second one is the iconic, and the third one is the symbolic. And these are all proposed by Jerome Bruner in his cognitive development theory. So the first one is an active representation, and this mode is based on physical activity and is the first mode to appear in the cognitive development. The second one is the iconic representation. So in this stage, information is stored in the form of symbols or image. And then the third one is the symbolic representation. This is a more sophisticated mode because this is the last to develop and this is more flexible than the previous two modes. Okay. Okay, so these three stages also become the three ways to represent knowledge. So the first one is the enactive representation. So at the earliest ages, the children, no, they learn about the world through actions on physical objects and the outcomes of these actions, no. And those children represent objects in terms of their immediate sensation of them. They are represented in the muscles and involve motor responses or ways to manipulate the environment, like for example, riding a bicycle and tying a knot or even tasting the apples. Okay. Okay, so the next one class is the iconic representation, and this is the second stage, no, when learning can be obtained through using models and pictures. So the learner in here can now use mental images to stand for certain objects or events. Kasi kapag sinabi nating iconic representation, it allows the students to recognize objects when they are changed in minor ways. For example, if we compare yung mga pictures ng mountains with snow, yung mountains naman dito sa kabila na without snow at the top of it. Okay? And the third one class is symbolic representation, and this is the third stage. And according to Jerome Bruner, the learner in this stage has developed the ability to think in abstract terms. Okay, and this stage class, this also uses a symbol to encode knowledge, and the most common symbol systems are language and mathematical notation. Okay, in iconic representation kasi, information is stored as sensory images such as icons, or usually, di ba, visual ones like pictures in the mind. And in here, in symbolic representation, the most common symbol systems are language and mathematical notation. So as per Brunner's advice, as teachers, we must utilize and bring together the concrete, pictorial, or iconic, and then symbolic activities to facilitate learning. Kasi di ba, before children can comprehend abstract mathematical operations, for example, we can first have the numbers represented through an active representation, for example, with blocks, o kaya with sticks, o kaya with straws, o kaya with popsicle sticks, and then iconically, no, gagamit tayo ng mga pictures, no, and then our learners can later on handle numbers of concepts without concrete objects and only with numbers and number signs, which is yung symbolic. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about spiral curriculum. So si Jerome Bruner, he stressed that teaching should always lead to boosting cognitive development. Kasi di ba, our students will not understand the concept if we plan to teach it based on the level of our understanding. Okay? So our instruction needs to be anchored on the learner's cognitive capabilities. So our task as teachers class is to translate information to be learned into a format appropriate to the learner's current state of understanding. So the curriculum then should be organized in a spiral manner so that the students continually builds upon what they have already learned. For example, in a spiral curriculum class, no, as teachers, we must revisit the curriculum by teaching the same content in different ways depending on the student's developmental level. And this is why certain topics are initially presented in grade school in a manner appropriate for grade schoolers, and then the same topic is tackled in high school, but on a much deeper level. And even now, di ba, sometimes a topic can be revisited within the same semester or school year. For instance, the 14 learner-centered principles that were introduced to you in week 2 will again be tackled in week 16, but this time, the 14 learner-centered principles will be taken up as a means to integrate and summarize all your learning in this course or in these subjects. And indeed, no class, many other concepts and principles discussed in the course are also taken up in your other subjects like yung child and adolescent development and principles of teaching. So this kind is a part of a spiral learning, and it helps us get a clearer understanding and a more effective learning. Okay? Okay, so in the K to 12 curriculum class, the spiral progression is a mandate. And in section 5, which is yung curriculum development of RA 10533, it states that the curriculum shall use the spiral progression approach to ensure mastery of knowledge and skills after each level. So to apply this in, for example, math and science subject, for example, in math, no, this would mean that the teachers teach, for example, algebra, geometry, what else is statistics, and trigonometry concepts from kinder to grade 10. And even in science, di ba? Yung biology, chemistry, and physics concepts are taught from grade 3 to grade 10, considering, of course, the level of the developmental stages of the students. So as we can see now, class, in the spiral progression approach, in the spiral curriculum, the teaching of concepts increases in depth across each grade levels. Okay? Pero let's all remember that, for example, yung mga statistic concepts na yan in kindergarten, much simpler sila compared to the statistics concepts in grade 10. Same goes with the geometry concepts in kindergarten. Mas simpler siya, much simpler siya than those taught in grade content. Okay? And as we can see, no, in the spiral progression approach, yung concepts, no, concepts are being revisited again and again. And as learners go up to their grade level, this supports mastery of the concepts. Okay? Okay, so the next one is discovery learning. So discovery learning refers to obtaining knowledge for oneself. Okay, so as teachers, we plan and arrange activities in such a way that students search, students manipulate, students explore, and students investigate. So yung mga students natin, they learn new knowledge relevant to the domain and such general problem-solving skills as formulating rules, as testings, and gathering information. Okay? So another thing that we should remember is that most discovery does not happen by chance. Okay? The students require background preparation. So once student possess prerequisite knowledge and careful structuring of material, it allows them to discover important principles. Okay? An example of this is that, for example, in elementary classroom, no, as teachers, we might use guided discovery to help children learn animals groups, such as, for example, mammals, birds, and reptiles, rather than providing our students with the basic animal groups and example for each. We could ask students to provide the names of types of animals, and then the students could classify the animals by examining their similarities and differences. Okay? Kasi yung mga category labels na yan, it can be assigned once classifications are made. And this approach is guided by us to ensure that classifications are proper, but students are active contributors as they discover the similarities and differences among animals. In high school classroom setting naman, for example, a chemistry teacher might use mystery liquids and have students discover the elements in each liquids. And then the students could proceed through a series of experiments designed to determine if certain substances are present in a sample. So by using the experimental process, our students can now learn about the reactions of various substances to certain chemicals and also how to determine the contents of their mystery substance. Okay? Okay, so another concept of Brunner is the theory of instruction, and he states that the theory of instruction should address four major aspects. So the first one is predisposition to learn. So Jerome Brunner introduced the ideas of readiness for learning, and he believed that any subject could be taught at any stage of development in a way that fits the child's cognitive abilities, and this feature specifically states the experiences which move the learner toward a love of learning in general, or of learning something in particular. Okay, so in this manner, class, motivational, cultural, and personal factors contribute to this aspect. Aside from that, we also emphasize social factors and early teachers and parents' influence on this because we believe that learning and problem solving emerge out of exploration. And part of the task of us as teachers is to maintain and direct a learner's explorations. Okay, that's number one. So the second one is the structure of knowledge, and this refers to the ways in which a body of knowledge can be structured so that it can be most readily grasped by the learner. He emphasizes the role of structure in learning and how it be made central in teaching. Kasi di ba pag structure, it refers to the relationships among factual elements and techniques. So this will depend on different factors, and there will be many ways to structure a body of knowledge and many preferences among our learners. Okay? Okay, so the third one, class, is effective sequencing. No, let's all be reminded that there is no one sequence that will fit every learner, but in general, the lessons can be presented with increasing difficulty. Okay, let's also be mindful that sequencing or even lack of it can make learning easier or more difficult because spiral curriculum, di ba? Kung babalikan natin, it refers to the idea of revisiting basic ideas over and over again and building upon them and elaborating to the level of full understanding and mastery. Okay? So the fourth one is reinforcement, no? Yung rewards and punishment should be selected and paced appropriately. Kasi si Jerome Bruner, he investigated motivation for learning and he felt that ideally, interest in the subject matter is the best stimulus for learning. And Bruner, no, he did not like the external competitive goals such as yung grades or even yung class ranking. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about categorization. Okay, so si Jerome Bruner, he gave much attention to categorization of information in the construction of internal cognitive maps. And he believed that perception, conceptualization, learning, decision making, and making inferences all involve categorization. Kasi di ba categories are rules that specifies things about objects. Okay, so again now class, categories are rules that specify four things about objects and the four things are given in your screen. Okay, so the first one is criterial attributes and this required characteristic for inclusion of an object in a category. For example, for an object to be included in the category of car, it must have engine, it must have four wheels, and it must be a possible means of transportation, and that is criterial attributes. No? So the second rule prescribes how the criterial attributes are combined. And then yung third rule assigns weight to various properties. For example, it could be a car even if a tire was missing. Okay? And if it is or if it was used for hauling cargo, it would be shifted to a different category of truck or perhaps van. Okay, that's number three. And the last one and the fourth rule sets the acceptance limits on attributes. Okay, so some attributes can vary widely, such as color, others naman are fixed. For example, a vehicle without an engine is not a car. Likewise, a vehicle with only two wheels would not be included in car category. Okay? Okay, class. So there are several kinds of categories, no? The first one is the identity categories, and these categories include objects based on their attributes or features. The second one is the equivalent categories, and it provides rules for combining categories. Okay, let's all be reminded, no, class, that equivalence can be determined by affective criteria, which render objects equivalent by emotional reactions, functional criteria based on a related function. For example, yung car, yung truck, and even yung van, this could all be combined in an inclusive category called motor vehicle. For example, another example, class, or an instance, an apple is still an apple whether it is green, ripe, or dried, and the like. Okay, and that is identity. Okay, like it is also food, which is functional, and it is a member of a botanical classification group, which is formal. Okay, and the last one is coding system, and these are categories that serve to recognize sensory input and they are major organizational variables in higher cognitive functioning and going beyond immediate sensory data involves making inferences based on related categories. Okay, let's be reminded that related categories form a coding system. Again, na class, related categories form a coding system, and these are hierarchical arrangements of related categories. Okay. Okay, so again, no class, to give you a summary of what we've discussed today about the constructivist theory of Jerome Bruner. We discussed the representation of knowledge, and that is the inactive representation, the iconic representation, and the symbolic representation. We also discussed the theory of instruction, such as predisposition to learn, the structure of knowledge, the effective sequencing, and the reinforcement. And then we also discuss the concepts of a spiral curriculum, the discovery of learning, and the categorization. Okay, so thank you for attending this class, and get ready with your 10-item quiz to be facilitated via Google form. Thank you.